typically say? How often do you have that conversation?
Well, I typically don't have that conversation much anymore because they realize it. Now, I have a feeling I'm going to be justifying my fee a little bit more upcoming year because I did do a pretty dramatic increase, and I expect that. And I'm going to have to get into understanding what my customers are doing in that level. But we've had that conversation. Oh, and by the way, that is standard sales training.
Right.
You learn, and that, by the way, is also how a sales trainer sells themselves. You know, say, look, you've got 10 salespeople. If I can get half of those people to increase their sales by 10%, my fee is, it's 3% of that. Why are we arguing about this?
Yep. Okay, excellent. All right, so now I just want to turn the topic to essentially the heart of the interview. And originally we got into this research thinking that there was a hockey stick phenomenon in the speaking business. If you think of on the horizontal axis is time, and on the vertical axis it's gross speaking revenue, and for an individual or for their company. And we thought that, they limp along for a certain period of time and then something magical happens and the business takes off. We've subsequently revised that theory, but into something we're calling, for some it is a long tail, for some it does look like a hockey stick. So for you, we're trying to get at the hockey stick. So if year one for you was 1983, right? And in 1990, you hit 100,000, right? Do I get that right? No, you did 250.
It was probably more like 86, 87.
Okay, so 83, 84, 85, 86. So in 87 you hit. So let me just do this. So in 83, what was your first year gross sales approximately?
I started in probably the second or the last third of the year. I'm going to estimate my sales. So are you ready for this? We're probably in the neighborhood of maybe 3,500, 4,000.
Oh, that's great.
So that year, yeah.
All right.
So I might give you some. And by the way, let me give you some insight to where that happened.
Yep.
After listening to Zig Ziglar, I sat down and I made a plan. I made a 10-year plan. I was 23 years old at the time. I just turned 23, and I decided and I actually decided when I was 22 that this is what I thought I wanted to do. By the time I was 23, I said, I'm making it a business. I stopped interviewing. I was interviewing at real estate companies, banks, retail stores, saying, what am I going to do with my life, right? And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I made a 10-year plan.
Excuse me, had you graduated college at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
Year before that.
Okay.
Yep. So I had a 10-year plan. The plan started with, and remember, I started in July or August. By the end of the year, I want to be making $1,000 a month. Okay? So I had, I got my first contract signed in August. My first booking was in September because they're not hiring you the day that you sign the contract. And then, there were some other things, small events came along. So by year two, I want to be making $2,000 a year. By year three, I want to make $4,000. Okay, now 4 times 12 is 48. The next year, I want to make 96. Okay, and I wanted to get to a point. Then the following year, I want $100,000 gross. The next year, $100,000 net. By the time I got to age 32, the goal was, because I had a $250,000 gross, and then at age 32, I was going to hopefully do $250,000 net. And I put these goals out there, and I kind of structured what I was going to charge, how many bookings I had to do, that kind of thing. So, and I'll never forget. I mean, I didn't feel I was setting my goals low, but I hit my age 32 goal at age 30. Okay, so starting at age 31, I set another 10-year plan, And by the way, I also included in that plan, and this is really important, not just how much money I was going to gross and net, which we've talked about, there's a big difference there, but how much I was able to save. That's a huge piece of it. You have to be able to save, or else when you're 65 or 70 or 75, it's like, what do you got to be able to retire on? So I've been very lucky. I was always conservative with my money from the day I started my business. Call that good parenting.
Yeah.
My parents.
All right. So, I mean, it's I deal with a lot of small businesses that make plans, and the one thing that we know is the plan rarely unfolds as it is written. But for you, it didn't seem to work that way. But do you want to comment about, you say you want to make, let's say, $100,000 this year, and you need to close whatever, 50 talks, but it turns out the close rate isn't what you thought it was going to be.
Right. So, you have to readjust. So 50 talks at $2,000 gives you 100, right? So maybe it's like, gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to close 50. That's a lot. Maybe what I should try doing, let me raise my fee to $4,000, and maybe try to do less talks. Let me see what that happens. And maybe now you have to assess why you're not getting bookings too. If your fee is too high, if people just say that you're not worth it, well then you may have to decide you need to do 75 talks at 1,500 or whatever the number is, to get you to your plan. But I think that's a kind of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a question that, it's like it's scenario based.
Okay, so let me ask the question in a different way. How does a new speaker come up with a realistic plan?
Well, again, we talked a little bit about this. A little bit of research gives you an idea of what the market bears. Most people getting into this business, when they decide to do it, they know what they can potentially get for a speech because they've heard of what other people are getting. They maybe worked at a company where they hired speakers, so they know what's out there. So they have an idea of what a fee is.
Okay.
Okay, so they set their fee. They know what it is. They say, if I did 20 speeches at 5,000 or 50 speeches at 2,000, I know I can hit my goal. Now, here's the question. How am I going to get those 50 speeches, or how am I going to get those 20 speeches? And you need to make a plan on how to go about and get that. So you start. This is what I did. I went to the business section of the magazine store here in Clayton, where I am looking out. I can almost see the building where I used to buy my magazines when I was a kid, or kid younger. It's still there. It's called the Clayton or City Newsstand or something. And I went and bought all the business magazines. There were like 3 or 4 of them, and I pulled out full-page ads. And I said, if they have a full-page ad, they probably are selling something, which means they have a sales meeting, which means they might hire a speaker. So I went out and made 100 highly, what I felt were the highly, most high potential clients that I might have. And that's where I started my plan, because you can't just say I want to make money and I want to do a certain number of speeches. You got to know who to go after, and so you create that list of your target 100. That's what I called it, or that's what I ended up calling it, and that's how I started. And if I started to get where I was running low on, I go back and get another 100. And between the newsstand, going to the library, reading the newspapers, and finding names of executives in newspapers, that's how I built my list of prospects.
But it still comes down to close rate.
It does. It does. So we'll take that to the next step, too. In the speaking business, you're expected to be able to present well. If you can't present well on the phone to sell yourself, there's no way the client is going to feel you can present well to their audience. Now, we're talking about the beginning speaker. There are plenty of thought leaders, college professors, authors, who are not the greatest speakers out there. And to the point we were making earlier for the full-time pro, they may not even truly be able to hold their own from the standpoint of, even being just okay, but their content is so compelling, and their reputation may be so strong at that particular point in time that you want that person. There might be some Olympic athlete that just won, gold medals. They may be the worst speaker, but you know what? They're still an Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
So the market is strong for that athlete, and the athlete shows up, does a fair speech at best, but stands around getting a lot of pictures taken with the people, and all of a sudden the entire experience was worth it.
Yep. So I'm still not sure where we're going about the close rate. You must present well, but not always.
So if we are going to be, the professional speaker is different than many other types of speakers. Celebrity speakers, doctors on TV that get called to speak, the weatherman that gets called and makes a few bucks. The professional speaker is making a living at this, and they need to do all of the planning that we talked about. And when they get on the phone and they're not making sales, there's probably a reason why. They need to get support and help in doing so. They can go to their local NSA meeting, they can go to a sales training program, they can read a book, whatever. They need to get better at communicating the story so that they can sell. I'll give you an example here in our office. I'm very good at making the sale. The people in my office, when they start, they're not good. We work on it, we understand the product, and we start by, can we at least communicate it well and communicate it effectively? And I've watched the two people that are dealing directly with my clients over just the last couple of years. Stephanie has been here. Cindy has been with me a long time, and she's my wife on top of it. And that, by the way, is a whole other story. It's the only reason she's talking to clients is because she never wanted to talk to a client. But one day she got on the phone and she said, you know what? I felt more comfortable this time. And she's gotten really, really good at it. So experience gets you there. But in the beginning, you can't waste 2 years getting that experience. You've got to get good quickly. So you must give yourselves the tools to do so. Remember, I told you I saw Tom Hopkins, and I bought his book, How to Master the Art of Selling Anything. It wasn't so I can learn how to be a sales speaker. No, it was so I can learn how to sell myself as a speaker.
Yep. Okay, let me go back to the revenue. And let me just ask this. So hold on. So in 87, so if in 87 you hit 100, and in 90 it was 250, if I remember correctly, right? Approximately.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? What was it in before? So in 87, in 88 and 89, what was it? I'm trying to get at the slope of that and when it was a big uptick.
Well, the biggest uptick.
Yeah, there we go.
And the biggest uptick came after that when I started doing public seminars, and my numbers were in excess of annually 4 to 5 times that. Call it hard work, call it luck, call it just being in the right place in the right time and figuring it out. I don't know, but it worked for me. Keep in mind, what I'm trying to do is recognizing based on a fee. I was figuring out, okay, I can double my fee. I'm sorry, not double my fee. I can double my income per month because I'm going to do double the number of speeches, not twice the fee. So getting out, I said, gosh, if I did 2 speeches a month, I was charging $500 a speech. I can make $1,000 a month. I know I can, as momentum gets me going, I'll be able to do 4 speeches a month. And by the way, that's what happened. I worked for Anheuser-Busch. The next year, they hired me for 20 speeches. I worked for, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. The next year, they hired me 2 or 3 times. I got my booking with General Motors, which was kind of an entertainment type gig. But in the morning, I would work with the dealers doing kind of a motivational customer service talk. And in the afternoon, they'd have me at special events, like auto show type events, where I would entertain the dealers and the public. But that was part of my background too. But it was all part of a daily fee that I got. And, they booked. So, I just looked for opportunity. By the way, that's one thing I wish I'd have known then what I know today. And that is, when you start to look at who your ideal client is, and you asked this question earlier, you don't know who your ideal client is until you start to see a pattern of the types of clients. One of the things I noticed with two of my 3 or 4 clients that I had at the beginning is that companies like Anheuser-Busch would hire me not to speak to their own people, but they would send me to an association and sponsor me to speak at, the National Grocers Association.
Yep.
A mutual fund company wouldn't hire me to come and speak to their salespeople or wholesalers. They would hire me to go, and they gifted me to, whatever the Prudential, office, and I would go into a city in a meeting. They were at a Merrill Lynch office. So I within, and I'll never forget. It took probably 8 years before I realized there's a pattern to who's hiring me. The most work I get is from companies that don't really use me for themselves, but use me for their customers.
Oh, that's frustrating.
So I saw that pattern, and I started going after all these clients that could book me on multiple dates for their customers.
So, on one hand, we could look at that and say, well, what's the message for that? That's saying that, the company doesn't want to change, but they want other people to change. I mean, I'm simplifying, but you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's more of they recognize there's value in association with the speaker and the topic. If they're sending me, it means they trust me to deliver a message on their behalf, and it's like branding or marketing for them. And that's how they use it. When banks have customer events, and you go to a national bank and you say, "Look, let's do a tour of 6 cities, 6 major markets, and let's get all your commercial accounts together, your businesses, and let's give them a gift. Let's give them a customer service program." And they like that idea, and so that's. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but that's an example of the way. That's the example of the way I think. By the way, a lot of people, and I think if you get to the more successful speakers, you'll find there is a percentage of speakers that are very, very successful just because they're so freaking good. They get hired again and again and again.
Yeah, but hold on. Let me go back. So we go back to the value question. And that is, you have quantified the value for Anheuser-Busch. But do you quantify the value for the Anheuser-Busch customer? Probably not, right?
No, they've done that themselves.
So how do you...
By the way,
yeah.
That particular client, I didn't need to do the type of conversation that we had earlier. And one quick thing, you're not going to mention company names.
Oh, no.
Okay, good, yeah. So, but we're just doing this as an example.
Yeah.
And with that, I didn't have to. I was being hired at the time to fill a spot in their agenda with a good message. We never had the discussions. It's when we get into a client that is going, okay, we are trying to make a big change. We have a result. I ask a question that's a really important question. At the end of 1 year, what would have to happen for you to feel that this was a good investment, whether you hire me or any other resource? And they'll tell me. And that's a very revealing question that many times they haven't even thought the answer through themselves.
I'm just writing. I'm going back to this sponsorship question. You're the second person I've interviewed that talked about sponsorships. So if a speaker is trying to use that as a business model, sponsorships, it's hard enough to quantify the value to Anheuser-Busch, let's say. It's really hard, or it's hard enough to quantify the value with GM. Now what we're saying is, okay, you as a speaker should try to quantify, because the sponsorship area is a good area to dig. Why don't you see if you can come up with the value to the dealers and then pitch that to General Motors. You see where I'm going? That is, I mean, we can't even get speakers to get to the first step on that ladder of quantifying the value for GM. Now we're saying, but we really want to, because where the gold is at, the multiple engagements, it's quantifying for the value for their customers so they can sponsor you. Because essentially because people really don't want to change and they'd rather hire you to help change somebody else than them.
Right.
Now maybe that is an incorrect assumption, but I'm just throwing that out there to get your opinion.
I don't think they'd rather hire somebody else for that. I just think that there's it's...
No, I didn't mean that. They don't really want somebody to come in to tell them to change. They want somebody to come in to tell somebody else to change.
Well, yeah, but sometimes a client wants that. I mean, that's what they're looking for. By the way, I know we scheduled an hour, and I know we're way beyond that. I have another call that's coming in at 11 o'clock my time.
So we need to just wrap this up.
Well, I mean, we can come back to it, too. I just don't want to let you down.
Oh, no, you're not letting me down. This is all good. This can be the final question. So I'm just getting at, if there is gold in this sponsorship area, what is the message to the speaker?
Okay, so I don't know if I'm going to give you the right answer, but here's my take on it. Number one, find the market that is interested in you that would make your sponsor look really good and bring them benefit. Anheuser-Busch used to say to me, we could sponsor the cocktail reception or we could sponsor the speaker. Actually, they did both. They said that they get a lot of recognition and appreciation because as the speaker, I don't just go out there and do my speech. I represent them. I use their name. I talk about them, and I tie it in a little bit to the presentation. It's not.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've watched your videos. Yep.
Okay, so that was a cool. When somebody said that to me, they go, you know what? We get more bang from our buck for recognition when I do the mutual funds. One of the programs when they said, yeah, we just, they always are looking for speakers and they always come to us and ask us for money to hire speakers. And I said, well, are you allowed to choose the speaker? Yeah. I go, well, choose me and I'll tell you why. Number one, when I'm done, it won't just be thank you for sponsoring whoever for sponsoring the speaker. Your name, I'm going to talk about you, but here's more important. I'm going to give you, or you're going to buy a bunch of my books, and your salespeople are going to go out 2 weeks after my speech and say, that speaker that you heard 2 weeks ago, here is a signed copy of the book. I'm bringing it to you. And now that salesperson has a conversation. So they're taking that sponsorship of me to a whole nother level. By the way, that was my idea.
So, Shep, I just want to go back to I know we have just 2 minutes. So it's hard enough for the speaker to understand the client's business. Now we're asking the speaker to understand the client's customer's business.
Well, no. We are and we aren't. On the sales, if you really want to be good at this, you'll understand both sides very quickly. But the first time that you're hired to go do one of these customer events, number one, the client has already figured out that you're a value to that event. But if you're like any other speaker who's really good, you're going to find out who your audience is. And that's going to come through your content calls, your pre-programmed questionnaires. So at that point, you don't need, during the sales process, to understand the value to the client's client or customer. You just need to, eventually, when you do the presentation, understand that customer and that audience.
Okay. Let me just switch the topic. Last one. It'll take you. Hopefully, you'll be able to shorten this up. What was the role that NSA has played in your success?
I thought that I was successful when I joined NSA in 1988. I had a six-figure business. I was young. I thought wasn't arrogant, but I knew that I was doing pretty well. And then when I got to NSA, it wasn't so much that I saw a bunch of successful speakers and said, "Wow, they're much bigger than me," but what they taught me in that first meeting that I went to in 1980, I went, "Wow." Blew me away. I knew I had so much more to learn. NSA has kept me up to date with what's the latest and greatest. They've given me what I needed as far as the tools and the education to take my business to where it is today.
Great.
It's the number one best investment I ever made in my business, and I continue to do so.
Great. Okay, Shep, thank you very much for taking the time. The procedure is that I hope to be able to finish this report by December. Brian will edit it. Then we'll send it out to you and the other interviewees. We'll revise it, and then Brian will do with it, make it available or whatever. So I appreciate you taking the time, and your insights were very helpful.
Well, thank you. And if you need more, we just schedule some more time. I know we scheduled an hour and we're over, but I'm happy to continue the conversation if necessary.
Great. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at a future conference.
Can't wait.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.